20 Scariest Ghost Towns Around the World, Part 1. There is something unsettling about walking through an abandoned town, whether the buildings are crumbling and broken or still creepily intact, as though residents just disappeared into thin air. Some ghost towns provide insight into the country's history, while others are steeped in folk tales and ghost stories. Most are free to explore, making for an offbeat and low-budget travel experience. We have compiled the world's eeriest ghost towns in a spooky snapshot. Here are reviews 20 Scariest Ghost Towns Around the World, Part 1. Croco, Italy. And the Oscar for Best Ghost Town goes to Croco. Because of its unusual landscape and eerie look, the small hillside town in southern Italy has not only starred in movies such as Passion of the Christ or Quantum of Solace, but also in TV shows, music videos and even a Japanese Pepsi commercial. Croco was abandoned due to a series of natural disasters including landslides, floods, and earthquakes, with the last residents uprooting in 1991, finally defeated by Mother Nature. Despite the fact that Croco remains unstable and prone to the elements, you can book a guided tour or join one of the festivals between May and October. Kayakoy, Turkey. This Turkish village was once populated by nearly 10,000 Orthodox Greeks who were exiled in 1923 in the aftermath of the conflict between the two neighboring countries. Muslims from Macedonia settled in their place but found the infertile and hostile territory unfit to live and soon left for other regions. In 1957 a huge earthquake further destroyed Kayaköy, but around 350 homes, 2 churches, an old fountain from 1888, and a little chapel on the hill are still standing. Anyone wanting to see Lower Church in the vacant streets has to purchase a ticket, though you may pass without it in the early and late hours of the day. Pripyat, Ukraine. This place, the most famous ghost town in the world, forever connected with the nuclear disaster of Chernobyl, is Pripyat. Before that fateful day in 1986, the city was home to 50,000 residents who were all evacuated within 2 days after the nearby reactor failure. Because of the hasty departure of its citizens who left non-essential items like dolls, clothes, and furniture behind, Pripyat draws photographers and, increasingly, tourists. Radiation levels have dropped significantly, which means you can now explore the ghost town with its abandoned schools, hospitals and residential buildings on a guided tour. Touching anything, however, is strictly forbidden. Ross Island, India. A tiny speck on the map in the Indian Ocean, Ross Island was originally settled in the late 18th century, but due to the harsh weather was soon again abandoned. 6 decades later, the British established an administrative headquarters and penal settlement. Residents lived a comfortable life with a swimming pool, tennis courts, and grand ballrooms. The happy days lasted until an earthquake in 1941, followed by an invasion by the Japanese, and in 1979 Ross Island was handed over to the Indian Navy. Explore the church and gardens or wander into the wild vegetation while peacocks scream and deer run past. Ember Village, the United Kingdom. In 1943, in the middle of World War II, the distraught residents of Ember village were given only 6 weeks' notice to pack up and find a new place to live. The British Ministry of Defence had decided to use the village as a training ground for American troops preparing for the invasion of Europe. After the war, locals were not allowed to return despite rallies and protests, and Imber remains an exercise area for the military to this day. Several times a year, the village is open to the public and you can see 13th century St. Giles Church, the Bell Pub, Imbercourt Manor House, and residential homes. Imber is still part of the census records for England, though the number of residents has been shown as 0 since 1951. Arltunga, Australia. Arltunga in Australia's outback was born out of a gold rush in 1887. Fortune seekers had to travel from the Oodnadatta railhead over 370 miles, often on foot, which took more than a week at the time. Life in the isolated gold mining town was extremely harsh in the scorching heat. However, gold extraction lasted for 3 decades until the precious metal ran out. The dry climate has left the ruins of Arltunga well preserved. To visit you need to brave the hot weather and a stretch of gravel road. Read the small print in your rental contract, though it might be well worth it when you find your own gold nuggets when panning at the visitors center. Hashima Island, Japan. Commonly called Gunkanjima, Battleship Island, Hashima Island was once known for its undersea coal mines. Operations began in 1881 and the population hit a peak in 1959 with 5,259 mine workers and their families living on the island about 9 miles offshore from Nagasaki. Once production ran dry in the mid-70s, most people went away and Hashima was left untouched until 2009. On a guided tour you can see the abandoned concrete buildings, stores, streets, and the surrounding sea wall, and learn about Hashima's dark past when prisoners of war were conscripted into forced labor prior to and during World War II. Varosha, Cyprus. Grand hotel rooms, miles of yellow sand, shopping precincts and restaurants. Varosha attracted the rich and famous, including movie stars like Elizabeth Taylor and Brigitte Bardot. That is until 1974, when the Turkish army invaded Cyprus following a coup and the island remained split between a Turkish and a Greek part. Varosha, a suburb of the city of Famagusta, was fenced off with barbed wire and few have had a chance to peek inside this time capsule since. Signs warn curious onlookers that taking pictures is strictly forbidden. Safer than taking bolt cutters and risk being shot, might be to look at satellite images on Google or drone footage on the internet. Kolmanskop, Namibia. Think diamonds are only a girl's best friend? Miners like them for cash too. On the edge of the Namib Desert lies a decrepit settlement that was once built on the white gemstones. In the early 1900s, German miners came to Kolmanskop in Namibia as diamonds were found beneath the yellow sand and brought with them Deutsche architecture, a school, hospital, bowling alley, and bakery. Allegedly, opera singers were flown in for performances. At its height, Kolmanskop produced nearly 12% of the world's total diamond production, but the boom was over when a far bigger deposit was found nearby. Bring plenty of water when visiting. Rhyolite, the United States. Some claim that Rhyolite, about 120 miles northwest of Las Vegas, was once home to thousands of people, though not much remains of its glory days, which lasted less than 20 years. Set up in 1905, the town was a mining hotspot. But after the rich store was exhausted, workers left for new pastures and the population had dropped close to zero by 1920. Industrialist Charles M. Schwab invested heavily in Rhyolite's infrastructure, which boasted a school, electric lights, water mains, newspapers, a hospital, and even an opera house, some of which can be seen today. We'll be back soon in the second part of the summary. Look for us on this channel. If you like, please share, comment, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.